So the Bratva was definitely one of the coolest episodes of season 5 of Arrow so far, and I just love how the episode starts off. It starts off with Talia basically taking out Oliver to take out some low-level thugs, practice some archery on them, and then later in the flashbacks we see in the episode that Oliver gets a chance to hunt down his first sort of person on the list, who's a drug dealer who had sold drugs to Thea, and he put some arrows in him, and of course we hear that iconic phrase, "You have failed this city," for the first time. And it was really great for the continuity of the show, and really awesome to see him sort of suit up for the first time with Talia's help in the past, and I loved seeing that this episode. The storyline in modern day Rush was pretty entertaining too. Basically, Team Arrow, everybody on Team Arrow except Renee goes to Russia to hunt down General Walker and his nuclear device, nuclear trigger that had been stolen, and they eventually go to Russia, they get some information, and they take down this facility, but Walker escapes, unfortunately, and everybody who's part of Walker's details escapes except one person who Diggle wants to interrogate extremely badly, and he is trying to use brutal tactics like we saw Oliver in Season 1 use, actually, to interrogate him. But Oliver, of course, doesn't want Diggle to do this, so he tells him not to. While that's going on, while Diggle's trying to find out information that way, Felicity basically blackmails this guy who she got info on from that hacker device. She basically blackmails this guy for information on Walker, which eventually, gives her the information she needs, but in the process, Rory figures out, and Rory basically says, "Hey, Felicity, you need to calm down. You need to not really get sucked in by this darkness," and he talks with Oliver about that briefly. But that advice all ends up leading to nowhere, and Oliver has to work with Anatoly to sort of do a menial task, beat up a guy for Anatoly in the Bratva to get information out of him, because that's how it works in the Bratva. You do a task, and then you receive information. You give, and then you get. And so Diana basically goes out with Oliver, and they rough up this little crew, and there's this cool little fight scene that happens. But then it was actually cool to see Diana sort of give Oliver this advice on how he needs to deal with Dig and Felicity. He doesn't need to let them become like him. He needs them to be the light in his life, to pull him away from the darkness, so he doesn't become what Prometheus wants him to become. And I actually love Diana's scene because it really cements her as a member of the team, and the Black Canary's done so wonderfully, and it is a shame that Laurel was never given the chance to be this good of a Black Canary. But it's awesome to see Diana being that way, and showcasing sort of that early dynamic between Oliver and her, and how she's able to give Oliver advice. Eventually, by the end of the episode, they hunt down General Walker at an airport, and Diana and Oliver, of course, after Diana and Oliver exchange the information, and Dig hunts down the actual general, has a gun against his head, but decides to take him in instead of killing him, of course, because Oliver gave him the speech about how he can't, be sucked in the darkness like he was. And Rory stops a nuke with his rags, which is really cool. But the thing that really bugs me is Rory's suit is damaged in the process. So at the end of the episode, Team Arrow returns home, and Rory sort of has to leave. He says goodbye to Felicity and tells her to say goodbye to the team for him, because all the souls in his rags had been drained from stopping the nuke. So Rory sort of shipped off from the show for a bit. Then we actually get to see Susan getting together with Oliver, Susan the reporter. She had implied earlier in the episode that they hadn't progressed very far. But then we also figure out that Susan's trying to get the dirt on Oliver, and she has a photo of him in the Bratva. So it's very interesting to see where they're going to go with this Susan reporter angle, and to figure out, is she playing Oliver for an idiot, or is she actually wanting to be together with him? I did love the little side plot in this episode. Actually, it was great because it's basically Renee, who of course is left behind, helps Quentin prepare for an interview with Susan. And both of them get extremely mad at each other because Renee starts asking Quentin the hard questions about Laurel and Sarah and his daughters, and it's very intense. But by the end of the episode, through these comedic and heated moments, they grow a strong bond with each other, and I love that about them, and I love how they have that little subplot be in this episode. And of course, it was nice to see Quentin after weeks of being gone. So, between the action, the flashbacks, the Renee and Quentin dynamic, and everything good about this episode, the Bratva was a great episode. But the only thing I didn't like was, of course, Rory leaving so abruptly. But overall, the Bratva was insane. An insanely good episode of Arrow, but of course with Rory leaving so unceremoniously, and with Diggle's reaction sort of being a little bit over the top, his interrogation techniques, I'd have to give this episode an 8.5 out of 10. The Bratva was a great episode of Arrow Season 5, and it was pretty awesome. I hope you've enjoyed this review. Remember, like and subscribe for more Arrow reviews. This has been Jonesy from Jones Your TV, signing off.